Start
Let's
the
do it, you
recording.
guys. Welcome, everyone. We have a special podcast for you tonight. I want to thank Anna for bringing Gene Decode on. Anna's been friends with Gene Decode, and if you haven't known who Gene Decode is, we'll have Anna introduce him shortly. And then again, we have Rob Cunningham, and Rob's been a phenomenal part of this movement. And I've started following Rob here about 5 months ago, and he is very well knowledgeable about the new financial system and XRP and XLM and XDC and the rest of the stable coins. And of course, we got Dylan Monroe. Dylan has been another stable in this movement. His maps, if you haven't studied or looked at his maps on his website, Dylan is also very knowledgeable of what's going on in the world in this war, this spiritual war that we are coming to light from the darkness. So with that, I want to hand it off to Anna. Anna, would you be so kind to introduce Gene to us, please?
Oh my God. Jean, thank you, Cranker. Thank you all for being here tonight. It's a very special night for me because it's for a long time I haven't been doing videos, recording videos. And every time I do chats with Jean, it's as if I was having some coffee. I don't see Jean as a superstar. He is my friend, and he always pointed this way to me by being so loyal and so caring. He just for you to context, we were just mentioning Gene and I had chats, private chats, only me and him, just to calm me down a few times. And I'm so glad to have him tonight and to introduce to such special people who are embracing me again to this new atmosphere for me at least. It's a different way, right, Jean, from when we started in 2000. I started in 2020, showing my face here in Brazil, and you went along with me. Brazil knows you. Brazil loves you. Loves your information. You helped me a lot to understand this war, and through this war, I've been receiving many blessings as friends. Jean is one of them. From the first moment I arrived to this arena, and I'm really glad that he was able to join us tonight and to be introduced directly to you, Cranker, to Rob, and of course to Dylan, whom in his email to me, Jane mentioned I would be really happy to talk to Dylan because he's fantastic. So Jean, welcome to my world again.
Thank you, and it's good to see you again, Anna. It's been a while, so it's good to see you back up and running, and I hope you and your family are doing well. And I've always admired what you do, and as well as Dylan Moore and his maps since pretty much close to when I came on the scene in 2019. So his maps are what I call mind maps, and they're incredibly sophisticated and well done in connecting everything. He's got a vast field of information of an overall understanding of the world and the deep state, and it's interconnecting spider web through every single thing there is out there. So his mentality is obviously off the chart. So it's an honor to be here with such a fine group of men and yourself, Anna. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, Jean, as I told you, I think, guys, I just want to make this point because I noticed in this last few months, we had a different pace in all this war, or in all the information that it's coming to the people. And I noticed, and I want Jean to comment on that, Jean. Have you noticed how people are much more um, able to receive our information than they were 5 years ago, or even a year ago? Don't you see like this? How do you see it?
Well, for me, it's a geometric curve. I started trying to wake people up to this in 1990. So at that time, I mean, I used to get up in Kapiolani Park after they had a banquet in which they were trying to raise money to find a cure for AIDS. And I get up, they'd ask if anybody had any information. I get up and go into the history of the creation of AIDS, the funding of AIDS, the requesting for AIDS to be created. And then I go into which one of 16 cures do you want that I currently know of. And so people were like, what? And you would think that somebody would be interested in that if that's what you're raising money for. And then I get off stage and I had a total of 3 people out of about 2,000 people out in the park there listening to me come up and say, one was a homeless man, and he actually gave me the most information and connected me with a guy that I got to meet that had been on the Eldridge for the Philadelphia experiment. He'd actually been on it and had a picture of himself in his World War II uniform in the Navy and said what part of the ship he was on, and if I had the original video of the movie with the kind of pinkish orangish framing, which is actual video footage from the experiment itself. And I said I did. And I went home as soon as I finished talking to him and pulled up the movie and went to that part. He said it was sitting on the port side on the fantail, and sure enough, it was him. So that was an amazing thing. But, back then, out of 2,000 people, you get 3. It's like that even want to know or share or help you and help you help them. And now it's incredible. I've sat in like a place eating breakfast and have people at the table across from me with a guy with 2 teenage kids going, wow, I think they're going to actually finally start arresting people. I can't wait to see Hillary behind bars. I mean, it's just like I'm walking in the dog park with my girl there, and people are talking about it as they're walking by. I'm like, wow. When I first started in 1990, it was hopeless. I thought there's no way we're going to dethrone this monster. We're all going to wind up in FEMA camps, because I did all the research in the Federal Register and the executive orders, and they had everything closed up and they owned everything. It's like George Carlin said, it's a big club and you're not in it. So it was just like, now I'm seeing so many people waking up, and it's been my endeavor throughout this. I'm not a person as a martial artist to give up hope, because once you do, then you're done. Your fight's done. So you got to keep yourself up there and going. And, having had a death experience in 1992, I don't give up hope, because I don't look at the planet itself as the end all of everything. And the human species didn't come here from this planet anyway in the first place. So, it's just the main contingent of the human species, not just relegated to here, but the main contingent is here. And so that's why all of the Orion Syndicate and all of these fallen angelics and everything are here. That's why it's so bad, because all of the nasties are focused here. So thank you. Back to you, Anna.
Oh, thank you, Gene. Every time it's a wealth of knowledge. It's a banquet. We receive so many things to connect just by listening to you. And I remember the first time I don't know if I told you, but I spent a whole night listening to you and to the videos. And then I decided to contact you. And the moment you reached me, I reached you, you answered me. I was waiting for you. So, and I was, oh my God, me? Who, me? And yeah, and since then, Brazil is a completely different uh, place, I think. Our work has been much more consistent. Not People are discarding this a political agenda, their favorite politicians, finally, and it has speed up our work on preparing ourselves to this new upcoming reality we are all diving into. And it's beautiful, it's challenging, but I like challenge. I think the challenge as a martial law, for me, it's the process which is the interesting place. I don't The results, when I complete it, I will it's you have this in common, and all of you have this in common. That's why we are the creators. We are creating our reality along with the plan coming to us. And the help Dylan brings, and more recently now that I ran into Mr. Cunningham, it's my God, people in Brazil are discovering the possibility of not wanting money, but living through their to having the resources to build their dreams. And it's like, it's touchable. Yeah, you can make it. You can create your wallet. We a week ago, Jean, on this financial aspect, which I have never been very keen on. Qranker has been introducing me more information, and I feel much more uh, prepared now to talk about this and to prepare myself and then assist others alongside with me. And that's why I want to have you here and closer again to my channel, to my voice here in Brazil, so we bridge to this new moment, because August seems to be a very special month, the beautiful month of the year, I believe. It's going to be August, the most beautiful, the most glorious, the meaning of the name. Anyway, guys, please feel free. You all are part of my channel, and I want you to have Jean in the same level as I have him, as a friend, not as a person oh my God, what is Jean's opinion? No, Jean is a person like you and I.
Thanks, Anna. That's great words. And we've been sharing a lot of Rob's knowledge on your channel, and the people have been really responding in South America. And we're building bridges. And Gene, this is one of the things that I wanted to do is bridge, start building bridges, because, even though we're from different parts of this realm, we're still all God's children. And having you on here with Rob is a tremendous honor. I know Rob, last podcast we did with Rob gave us his background. Can you give us a little bit of your background so the new viewers, I know your background, but we're getting more and more viewers and more people in Brazil. Can you give us a little bit of your background so that people understand the knowledge that you have, please?
Sure. And I'd like, if everybody could do that, I'd like to know Dylan's background. He's obviously a super genius, but I would like to know how he got there, and then Rob and yourself as well. So I was raised, um, well, kind of sort of raised, kind of sort of raised myself, but my father was working for Lockheed Martin back in the 50s. And so for me, especially once he got divorced, and then I lived with him alone with my sister, just the two of us, until he got married to a second wife. And by that time, had already quite a few patents in his name. He was a very intelligent person. And I would walk through the living room, and there would be, like Teslas, all these sparks flying all over the place. And I would start reading his manuals and talking about what he's working on at this time. And so for me, a lot of things that I thought everybody knew, as a kid, you think everybody's pretty much like you. So I thought, well, everybody knows we're on Mars. And this is back in, before we went to the moon, quote, supposedly when we first went to the moon. That's not when we first went to the moon, but the colony on the Mars and the little sampling thing he was developing to go get materials and all this different things. And it was just common knowledge to me. And the Philadelphia experiment and all of that stuff, that was kind of just the normal everyday thing. And then come graduating from high school, then at that time it was during the Tet Offensive, and they were having the lottery, and my number was 28. And the top 128 were going straight into the Tet Offensive that was running about a 90% fatality. So I joined the submarine service to be able to try to stay alive, because even in the Navy, first it was the Navy, and then I went to electronics school. because I scored very high on the entrance exams, about as high as anyone could, I guess. And so they gave me a special program that was brand new. And I went to the electronics school, and within the second week, I had two guys come back from the Bay of Tonkin from a destroyer. And I said, so it's safe being in the Navy? And they said, safe? What do you call safe? Two or three people get killed a day on the ship. I'm like, what? Yeah, snipers and rocket attacks and boats coming out. And he goes, if you want to be safe, join the submarine. So I immediately went the next day. And they also told me something that was a big gift is take as long as you possibly can before you go in the fleet because it's rough out there. So I did all of those things, and that changed my path in life completely. And I wound up my first submarine out of the Philippines that would go pick up UDT SEALs. And we would launch them either wet deck in the harbor or submerged, like, 150 feet down, or even bottomed out. And they would swim out and then find us a month or so later somewhere else in the harbor. And I was incredibly impressed. And I used to watch them work out inside the submarine. And that inspired me to get into martial arts. And that completely changed me forever in who I am, how I look at the world. It saved my life many, many, many times beyond counting. It's actually how I met my wife. She was my only female student because as soon as I transferred from that submarine back to the electronics school to finish my electronics, then my second submarine was an SSBN out of Hawaii with two crews, you off crew in Hawaii, and you pick up the submarine in Guam. And so it's interesting now that has a tsunami warning there. So, the base is under, all the ships are pulling out and all that. So I find it's really interesting. But in that, I immediately went to the Pearl Harbor recreation facility, the head of the recreation facility, and I talked to her and I said, do you have anyone that teaches martial arts? And I don't mean dojo stuff. I want like a SEAL. And it's amazing you're asking that, she said, because we have the top SEAL on earth. He ran the SAR school. He's the trainer for the SEALs, the lead trainer, and he's teaching, and he just started at this Quonset hut outside Pearl Harbor between here and the ferry. You know where that is, where you pick up the ferry? And I said, yeah. And he goes, right there, just right short of that as you're going down, the drive there. So I immediately went to that, and he wound up taking me as his primary student after some series of events happened. And that changed my life forever. And that's pretty much who I am. And, in that same time frame was when I woke up. That was in 1990, or that was 1976. Sorry, it was the last time before I retired that I woke up. And that was due to a series of events, too, that made me understand about the Illuminati and the, as they call themselves, the Olympians and all of this. And it just was a rabbit hole. I'm like Anna, once I got something, I can't sleep. I would first started when I woke up to it, was a Friday, and I immediately went to the Supreme Court Law Library and started pulling up materials off because you always know in Intel you follow the money, and that's what we're here today, is to follow the money and talk about money. And so I followed that, and I learned about the Federal Reserve. I learned about all of the creation of AIDS and so many other things in the Supreme Court Law Library in Honolulu, down in their basement where they call it the tombs, and you're locked in there, and they have all this material, and they check who you are and everything. And I went from Friday afternoon till Sunday when they closed. On Sunday, nonstop. The guy had to lock me in overnight. I give him a little bit of money. He picked me up some sandwiches and stuff through the night. And he didn't work Sunday normally. He came back Sunday. He goes, I had to see if you would still be here. What are you doing? I go, I'm having a nervous breakdown because I have big, huge tombs and ledgers and the congressional budget, federal books of the Federal Reserve, and books of the executive orders and paperwork everywhere, all over the floor, because I had the whole place to myself. It was kind of like Dylan Moore's mind map. I had things all interconnected and stuff. He goes, "What are you learning?" I go, "When I figure it out, I'll let you know." It's like, wow. So I kept going there for a month till I had exhausted it, trying to prove it was not true, what had dawned on me. And then I took top 5 martial arts students of my own that I had 5 at that time. And instead on Saturday, I told them, "We're not going to train today. I'm going to tell you something, show you something. I want you to come. Your job is to prove I'm wrong." And within a month, all of them came back and said, "It's way worse than what you said." I told them, "That wasn't what I asked you to do. I didn't want this to be true." And so they had even more material and things I hadn't heard of. And then, at that time, not a lot of people knew. And I got to meet Dr. Coleman, author of Committee of 300, in person. I got to meet Jordan Maxwell and actually talk from him to him. He's very similar to us. I talked to him from dawn, from dusk, from sunset to sunrise. I talked to him 12 hours, over 12 hours straight, just me and him talking. And we were just bouncing off each other. It was phenomenal. He was an incredibly intelligent and well-informed man, and he had inside knowledge from the church. His family was in the church, and told me all about that aspect, which, it just has been ballooning since then. So it's just been an incredibly insane, a bit of a journey that freaks you out, gets you pissed off, you go through all the stages of grieving, pissed off, angry, denial. This can't be true. Please make this not true. It's like everything along the way. And then, of course, part of that was in 1992, my death experience that made me completely wake up to the reality of the entire universe. So, and then come back here with that knowledge, with God granting me, our creator, or however you want to say it, the amazing gift to come back and share this with the world. And of course, after you're down a ways in that gift and things get really hard, you go, "Wow, I'm wondering if I really should have asked to come back here." It's pretty rough here, but I'm glad I did. So because it is amazing. I'm really excited now that it's all coming out. Something I thought would never happen, that they're coming down. The cabal is being taken down, and it is just there's a lot of people along the way, even in the last year, "Oh, there is no alliance." If you can't see it now, it's like David Sorensen of Stop World Control Now said, his 8-year-old can see it. He can see it's a movie. A lot of this is already done. And you go, if you can't figure that out, you're not trying. So, yeah, it's just such an honor to be here with everybody else at this amazing time, on the first time this has ever happened in any creation, the fall of the cabal. I mean, it's been here for I'm aware of it from many other creations even, and I never thought it could be undone. I've been tried to do it from different angles many times, and it just doesn't happen. They're so enmeshed into everything, and I've gained a vast level of knowledge even in the last month, where my level of knowledge on things has more than doubled. It's like how the knowledge of the human race has grown from 1875 to 1950. It doubled. And then from 1950 to 1975, it doubled. From 75 to 82, it doubled. From 82 to 87, 87 to 89, 89 to 90. Now we're doubling 5 times a day. So it's an and that's how everybody learns. And so I'm at the same curve as my knowledge is doubling. It used to, that first journey was about, the first wake up call was about a month of assembling the basic core of information that you build on. And now that's doubling at least every month. And I'm learning faster and faster and more information, and things that I thought, a lot of things that the way I looked at the world at that time, I thought That can't be true. It can't be true. There was Atlantis and Lemuria. That's just a fairy tale, or that's just a myth. And then you find out there's even stuff older than that. And now finding out there's actual proof, like in Cambodia, on the temples in Cambodia and Thailand, that human beings have been on Earth for 4 million years plus, even 400 million years plus. There's proof of it in the carvings on the temple. We've been lied to about our history. They've rewritten our history. They came here, as Carlos Castaneda said, a predator. And what they did is they gave us their mind, which is morose, morbid, and power hungry. And so we're coming to the end of that, and humanity is breaking the bonds of freedom, and at the same time breaking their mind out of the box it's been put into, that of a predator, and getting back to the beautiful beings we were meant to be and created by God to be: kind, loving, and compassionate, and honest and truthful beings that are talking about the truth because it's the right thing to do. So thank you, everyone, and interested to learn about everyone else. Back to you, Anna.
Yeah, well, yesterday I saw, I don't know, a piece of on the news where they show a stone, and Qranker has nice pictures that he can share. Stones, literally stones where you can see faces. And today I saw like hands, and it has more than, I don't know, thousands of years, and they are putting this information out. So there are so many layers. It's like a cake. It's an endless cake. And you have to have the spirit of adventure and to embrace it. And it's a dance. I always say it's a dance. It's like dancing. You're never finished. The music, every time the music plays, you can be better and do better and experience better. But guys, please be my voice here. I don't want to be just me and Jean.
So, Rob, why don't you introduce yourself to Gene and your background? Because you guys are the two military veterans here that we're honored to have you both, and we thank you both for your service. Will you share your story, please, so Gene can understand?
Sure, sure. And Gene, thank you for that story. I've listened to you for almost 6 years now, since you first came on, or since I first came on the scene early 2020. Um, it's it's a quantum journey. It's like the more we know, we don't know. So each and every day, the quantum size and relativity of the world expands, and we become our little grain of sand becomes even smaller, in an expanding universe. So it's humbling, to say the least, to at least go through life and try to realize every single day, or every minute, every hour, is Christmas. There's a surprise, and you can just open the box, with childlike expectations of, oh my gosh, what's 5 minutes from now going to bring us? That level of, I guess, conviction and faith and curiosity is it's been the most exciting, challenging, and developing 5 years of my life in the last five. So it's just amazing time to be alive. Um, so my dad was a former military. He dropped out of high school after he got a letter that his older brother had died in World War II flying the Himalayan mountains over China. So I still have a letter that got returned to sender that my dad had written when he was 14 years old, working at Macy's in Pensacola. And he had heard from his mom that, he was missing, and my dad was worried. So he wrote a letter, and it came back, undeliverable. So I have that letter. But my dad dropped out of high school and lied about his age and went in the Army, 82nd Airborne, and got his high school equivalency degree. And then he went to officer candidate school. And so he did infantry, 82nd Airborne, officer candidate school, went to Fort Rucker, flew helicopters, and then he flew fixed wing aircraft. Got out of the military, went to Palmer Chiropractic College in Davenport, Iowa. Came back to Georgia as the 14th licensed chiropractor ever in the state of Georgia. uh, he's always been he loves risk. There's no challenge he would never take. He was boisterous, he was rogue, he was bold, he was fearless, and you couldn't knock him down no matter what happened. He was a home builder at the end of Jimmy Carter's days when he had about 35 spec homes and interest rates went to 20%. He had to file bankruptcy and start his life over with 4 kids. But my mom was a school teacher, South Georgia school teacher, sweetest person, never had an enemy in her entire life, the most full of grace, loving, kind. I mean, you talk about salt and pepper. My mom was the sweetest thing you've ever met in her life. I think I might have heard her say a cuss word twice, and it was BS. That was the worst she would ever say in her life. But my dad was kind of the opposite. So I'm a mix of those two. Let's see. Walked on, played football at the University of Georgia, got my ass kicked. As I like to say, I walked on and crawled off with a broken knee in my second year. But got to meet Herschel Walker and a bunch of really good guys my freshman year. Studied management information systems, so business and computers. Wanted to fly jets, which is something my dad always wanted to do, and he encouraged me. So I did Air Force ROTC in college. I went to the Air Force and flew jets, T-38s, Learjets, KC-135s in Desert Storm. Flew for Delta Airlines for 2 years after I got out of the Air Force, and I was part of the first crew of Delta pilots to ever get furloughed, me and about 500 other buddies. So I changed careers and went into investment banking. I worked at Merrill Lynch, worked at Solomon Smith Barney, but I really had a passion for the mortgage and credit market. So I focused on mortgage banking and helping bring sophisticated products to retail loan officers. So I developed a relationship between Merrill Lynch Credit Corporation and a mortgage company. And so since then, my wife and I have been in business development for about 25 years. We started a company together in 2002, and we did leadership, business development, sales training, everything from end to end in the mortgage banking industry. We would train people across the United States. My wife was an unbelievable mortgage banker and an even better trainer. So I guess I'm blessed that for a time such as this, Gene, when I look back on my life and I go, what's going on right now? We're in war. It's a financial war. It's a spiritual war. It's a political war. It's an economic war. It's a debt-based war. It's a currency war. And you have to kind of blend all of these things together. You have to blend together, my people are destroyed for their lack of knowledge. We have to understand we're made in the image and likeness of God. We have to understand what leveling the playing field even means when it comes to like currency and economic opportunity and one set of laws that fits everybody from a moral standpoint, where no one's better or worse. We're all created in the image and likeness of God. So having a MIS degree, which is a lot about relational databases and coding, having a top secret military clearance, having some wartime combat experience, having been able to meet G. Edward Griffin and spend a day at his home and interview him, who wrote the book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. He's probably, the most learned man in the world when it comes to understanding the Federal Reserve and how they dreamed it up and what it was designed to be. And it was nothing more than a cartel, just like a mafia cartel. They created out this fake regulatory body, and instead of it saying banking cartel on the top, they erased that name and put a cool sounding title like Federal Reserve Act, on it. But in essence, it's a non-governmental organization domiciled outside the United States, and it took over our country. And then it funded everything that flew from it. And now you can connect Jesus as saying, the love of money is the root of all evil. I mean, he turned over the money changer tables because they were screwing everybody that interacted with the changing of money of the value exchange process. And they were sanctioned in the temple while they were doing it. And Jesus knew exactly what they were doing. He got so outraged, he turns over the table and whacks them with a bullwhip. And 5 days later, they hang him from a tree because he saw what they were doing with money. So to me, we're having an equivalent global money changing table event taking place the world over. And whether people understand it or not doesn't change the truth that we're in a political, spiritual, financial, economic, cultural awakening process the world over. And so many people just don't have the eyes to see, or the curiosity to see, or the humility to see. So we probably all are challenged with, how do we convey what is so crystal clear obvious to us, which is a spiritual undertaking, to people that just really don't care to hear it. I mean, it's a great culling. There's going to be people on one side of the fence and those on the other, and we can just serve as earnestly as we possibly can to try to help as many as we possibly can. But then it goes back to the parable of throwing your pearls before the swine, or throwing things out on a barren ground. Some will fall on the hard dirt, some will fall in the crack, and some will fall on fertile ground. We almost don't know who's going to want to listen to what we have to say. So we have to do it as to the best of our ability, and understand that we're not going to get through to everyone. But the fundamental question the law book gives us is, we have a choice to completely sell out and submit to the Creator and worship Him, or worship man and all the systems that man has put on this earth. That's it. Your one question: worship the Creator or worship it's God's law or man's lie. And depending on what we worship and what we idolize, our stuff, our title, our net worth, our credit score, our fame and fortune, well, that's fleeting. It can be taken away. I mean, look at how many people had to choose, and they didn't even know it. They had to choose between all their material stuff, their job and their savings and retirement account, and their kids' college savings account, or a poison in their body. They chose the poison, right? And they didn't even know that they were prioritizing stuff over life. And so to me, it's just a blessing to be awake, to be, to me, quantum, the word Q means so much to me. It means, to me, it's one letter is an acronym. It means omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. It's the quantum essence of God. And that quantum essence flows in and through us if we allow it to. If we understand energy, vibration, and frequency, and what that we're spiritual beings and not physical bodies. If we understand that I am, and then we have radical humility, it helps God work in us and through us, and we can move mountains, or we can quit, we can give up, we can bitch and moan, we can complain, we can talk about the sky is falling, and call everyone on this interview panel, a bunch of quacks and weirdos. We've heard it all, right? I would say that all of us have pretty thick skin by this time, and you know what? I eat that like candy now. So that's a little bit
Oh
about
yeah,
me.
we are. I even say they prepared me to be able to feel this way. I'm glad they did. I'm glad. I think they made me a favor by not embracing me into their world. And I am even more glad that I choose not to be on their world, to submit to them. And nowadays, since last week, I have been remembering a lot about, I think it's Paul. I can know everything. I can know all the languages. I can know every scripture. But if I don't know love and I cannot love, I think I think no, I know that everything we are doing right now, it's much it's not out of our knowledge, of our abilities. It's totally from the love that pours inside of our hearts. And this love gives us the strength to be doing this, chat, to be connecting, to be able to see. And unless people do this choice, like, do you want to love, or you're just talking about love, you're teaching me about love? No, because you have to be love. Love is not a word. Love is a verb.
Yes. Yes.
Love itself, it's a verb. You have to practice, you have to do it. There are many ways to show it. Anyway, Jean, don't you see like this? I think this is pretty much what we have been doing all our lives, right, Dylan? You do your maps out of love. Love by by the world you have inside of you. Am I right?
Yes, for me, it's we're in a war for our mind, spirit, body, and soul. It's like Rudolf Steiner said a long time ago. They will have a way to vaccinate out your soul, so you can't connect to your soul anymore. And that's what we're at the all-out war of all time. And if it's not going to happen, but had we continued on the track we would have wound up what's left of us, 500 million or so, in 15-minute cities just connected by the internet. And you would come back there over and over every time you die, just be in a soul trap, and your soul would be reincarnated in another person and another body in the same city in the same little 15-minute area, and you would own nothing at all. It's like a communist fascist state where they own everything, and you lease it from them, and you pay for the privilege to use it, and you're so mind controlled you love it. That's where we're headed. We were supposed to have been locked down constantly since 2019, and now we're already behind the ball on what they wanted. The FEMA camps and all that were set up to start arresting people. I had a martial arts student that I was training, and it dawned on me he didn't have morality. And so I have a question I asked him that is kind of a standard question about if he was told to go out and round up people in the neighborhood, and if have to use lethal force, would he? And he said, yeah. I'm like, do you have a family in this country anywhere? He goes, yeah. I said, do you not think that that would be the case for your family too? What's required for this to happen is for good people to do the wrong thing. I'm just following orders, just like we heard at the Nuremberg trials, just following orders. Well, if you're going to follow orders that will destroy the entire world eventually, and in the freedom of the human race, the human species, you're not on the side of good, and you're not on the side of God. And so I said, I'm done teaching you. But that at that time, I knew that was coming because I had seen in the 70s and 80s and in the 90s how they were buying up decommissioned military installations and buying up the FEMA was buying up tens of thousands of miles of barbed wire and making them FEMA camps. And they were putting the dots inside your mailboxes, red, green, and blue, to segregate and divide you up into what camps you go to and what to do with you. And if you had one color dot, they didn't even round you up. They shot you dead on the street and threw you in a freezer truck behind there. So that's where we were. That was supposed to happen a long time ago. And I never thought I'd see the Georgia Guidestones come down. I never thought I would see them out in public saying it out loud, that when they're doing that, that they're desperate They are desperate beyond belief. And now this stuff coming out with Obama that, of course, most of us knew it was true, but to see the actual process in, of it coming about and see all this happening is something that was beyond my wildest imagination when I first came upon all of this. And now I'm like, just like Rob said, it's like Christmas. Every time I wake up, I go, what's going to happen today? I'm so excited. 2 years from now, it's like, again, David Sorensen, I go back to him because he's so brilliant and such a wonderful man, so God loving. And he said, it's the way the world's going to be in 6 years from now. You won't even recognize it. It will be so glorious. The world will be remade in the image of God, where cities will be beautiful again, even more beautiful than they've ever been. And we will have our freedom, and everybody will have so much wealth that it won't even be a mental construct about what you need and the things you need and want. And so, it's going to be incredibly beautiful. The world will have changed. The children growing up there, that'll be what they grow up with. They'll grow up with a world, and we'll have technology using, instead of 5G or 6G or what Starlink uses, using the Pico effect, where quantum entanglement, and you just get information instantly from one point to the other anywhere in the universe. So it's just, an amazing time is coming for humanity. And living under the threat, I remember crawling under a desk in first grade because of the scare of the nuclear wars with the Soviets, right? And I'm like thinking to myself, because I saw the pictures of the tests on the cities, and the buildings went slap. The two walls came together. I'm like, I'm hiding under a desk to become part of a meat sandwich. Even at 5 years old, like, that doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, if you want to do anything, you might as well run out into the blast and just get vaporized instantly. I have to hear the walls ripping apart as they come towards you. It's like, at least you flash and go up in a puff of smoke and light. It's like, so it's just to see all of these changes and to understand now what the new kids coming in on the block will have a future that is just beyond anything we could have ever imagined, back to the golden age of where we left over 150 million years ago when we went into the dark side of the Milky Way. So ending the Kali Yuga and watching all this come down, it is just Christmas every day. Thank you. Back to you, Anna. Thank you, Rob.
Gene, I got to jump in here. You brought up the dots in the mailbox. During COVID, I was a voice. I was not putting up with it. And guess who had a red dot inside his mailbox? Yeah, you're looking at him right here.
Wow.
And I called out my local government. I called out my county. I went to the county board meeting. I called them all out. And I'll share with the people on the panel, I literally called them all out. And the county attorney laughed at me. He literally laughed at me. And this is where the people need to understand that we have the voice, we have the power, and that these are elected officials that get into these offices and they become part of the big group, as you were saying. So you have to understand, for those that are listening, had Hillary gotten in office, none of us here would be on. We wouldn't be here, because those concentration camps, we all been in them. And I guarantee you, people on this board, on this panel, and many of the other podcasters, they would have taken us out because they didn't want the truth to get out. So we have to be thankful for the time that we're living in. And to take down the Federal Reserve, they are the tentacles of the cabal. They own everything. They own the education system. They own the medical system. They own all the courts. They own all the law, the police departments, the sheriff's departments are all corporations. And when I did a deep dive and looked them all up on the Dun and Bradstreet, I formed a letter, an affidavit, and sent it to my local county. And I sent it to the state too. All the state departments are all corporations. They're not government agencies. They're all corporations. In 4 days, I got thrown in jail and I've been arrested 3 times. This is how they intimidate you. So I just wanted to follow up on what Gene's saying. If everyone got involved, this thing would have been done a long time ago, but people don't get involved. So anyhow, I just wanted to add that. Dylan, jump in here.
Well, it's great to be on a panel with such enlightened people who come from, such diverse backgrounds with so much experience, and especially Gene Decode to bring up Orion Syndicate in the first 5 minutes is even new for my channel. So, yeah, we look into everything. You guys are on the channel New Templars right now, and we go from everything from current events to finance to exopolitics and galactic stuff. Less frequently, but I cover all these different things. And so, briefly, my background, I feel like I was always kind of intended to be an artist. Both my parents were pathologists, which is the type of doctor that looks down the microscope all day. And I think some of that training like rubbed off on me in the womb or in my, pre-soul incarnation. Because you can see, these diagrams I'm creating now in some ways resemble, the complexity of what you would see looking down a microscope. And I've always felt like an outsider of the norm. A couple of my major wake up points was probably seeing Waking Life, the document, or it was a film, but it was an animated film that got me into astral projection back in the 90s. And then The Matrix, of course, made me start thinking like, what if everything is a simulation? And then I went to school, wasn't sure which field of art I was going to go into, but ended up going into fashion. And within fashion, worked more in the print design and embroidery. So I was developing the skills that I would use for these maps eventually. And my real wake up point when I realized about secret societies and 9/11, I was actually living in the financial district of New York and Googled information about the new World Trade Center 7. That was the first one they rebuilt. And of course, at that point, Google being less censored, found information about the old one that was rebuilt. And what I've realized even more recently was that prior to that, prior to living in that apartment, I was living in a dorm, which was actually across the street from the Federal Reserve in New York. I didn't even realize at the time. And I've just been hearing Juan O'Savin talking this week about how that Federal Reserve in New York is actually the main one that's actually controlling the one in DC. And so, for whatever reason, I have put myself adjacent to these massive conspiracies, and being a truth seeker myself, I have been in the position to discover like the truth about what's really going on here. And so yeah, I just just kind of achieved my goals in fashion in New York eventually, and then wanted to move into fine art after I had that realization in 2005 about 9/11 and secret societies. I began to be more public about it, and I actually started a Facebook group way back then before Infowars was even on Facebook. I started a Facebook group called Infowars and was sharing all my newly discovered conspiracies with my friends, and realized that the reaction was not as good as I expected, and then kind of went back into the conspiracy closet until 2017 when Trump got into office. I said, we finally have a president that is going to go after the CIA, that's speaking truth publicly for the first time. We got to go all in. And so I kind of came in with Deep State Mapping Project as like the civilian cavalry to support President Trump. And so this has really been in tandem with his administration and the White Hat agenda this entire time. And just doing whatever diagram comes to my mind. I'm really tapped into receiving downloads and guidance from higher powers, and so I just reveal and create whatever is needed for humanity at the time. I think the one that's had actually the most impact of all, if we're going to get into medbeds towards the end of this, has been the healing web, which is now being sold on Amazon and Etsy, and I just realized this week Walmart, without my permission, but they're shooting themselves in the foot, because the goal in releasing all this information for free was to destroy big pharma, at least for that one. And so they can bootleg it all they want, but they're only changing the world for the better ultimately. And I'm not worried about collecting the finances of, the sales of these items, at least for that one, because it's helping humanity and it's getting us to the end goal. And, ultimately I've created Healing Web version 2.0, which is the Infinite Life Vortex, which is not offered as a downloadable version. So no one's bootlegging that one yet. But that's just a little brief about me. To throw it back to Gene Decode here, there's a lot that's happened since our last video. Me personally, I just put out a video yesterday about the racial violence in Cincinnati, which is where I live, which I was only a block away from an hour before it happened, and so I was very familiar with that situation. And I've been raising concerns in my other videos about this Democrat DEI takeover of so many of our different cities. And Cincinnati's not even on the list that we've heard about of the 14 to 17 cities that will have a big problem eventually in this process. But it's certainly a microcosm of the things that are happening in bigger cities like Chicago and Philadelphia. And to bring this, more around to like the finance, and we're trying to keep this optimistic here, even though like I'm considering having like a march on City Hall at this point because there's so much corruption in this city. But we do see that the direction has changed from the top, and that that revolution of the Second American Revolution, let's call it, is sort of going to filter down from the federal to the states to the cities eventually. But we do need to ring some alarm bells to say it's time, because certain people, there's just lawlessness in too many cities. And we try to track all of this and see where the progress is. And sometimes we need to bring to the attention of the higher ups that things are getting a little bit out of control on the local level. And so that's what I've been doing this week. But we've also seen major developments with Trump at the Federal Reserve, with Jerome Powell wearing white hats, and then of course Trump in Scotland with Ursula and Keir Starmer eating out of his hand, bringing them to his palace in Scotland, acting like the King of Scotland, with Poppy Trump making jokes about being the King of Scotland. And so everything's looking so positive on the international federal level, other than maybe certain aspects with like Gaza, which we can debate about that. But the financial plan is one of the clearest things to me. And we've even had 𝕯𝖊𝖚𝖚 in the past few days talking about in very exact detail about how the USD will be declining, and there will be a US Treasury note or something to that extent. And he's very much tied in with Trump and the White Hats. So just so many good signs. And I think I'll save this crypto report for a little bit later in this video. But I wanted to put a question to Gene Decode. I haven't watched every single one of your videos, obviously, but I've seen many of them, and you're always very well informed on the underground situation, the deep underground military base situation. And just 2 days ago, we had the biggest earthquake in recent history in eastern Russia on the Kamchatka Peninsula, July 29th, 8.8 magnitude. And we've seen Trump using strong words towards Russia, saying they have 30 days to end this war in Ukraine, then lowering that down to 10 days to end the war in Ukraine. Ever since I made this 𝕯𝖃 map, which is really the center of what we talk about, in this panel, we've had this alliance of the Trump, Putin, Modi, Z, bin Salman, that, people have questioned the strength of this alliance, but to me, all these fighting words are just talk, and that at the highest level, the US and Russia, at least Trump and Russia and Putin, to me, they're like this. So, why is there like this earthquake, which may well be geological warfare, or could be earth changes? You never know. What's your take on this earthquake and like the relationship between Trump and Putin at the moment?
Yeah, this is part of the dumb wars. So they taken some of the major dumps on Earth. Just a few weeks ago, I never thought I would see this. Dulce was burning. They're burning it out. That's huge. They've taken, I've got a Decode in process that I'm writing on the Alaska dumps and the Canadian dumps attached to the Golden Dome facility in Greenland and Alaska under Denali and Mount Hayes. And so that's connected to something about AI that I hadn't imagine could be true. And so this is part of from there, what is the Great Alaskan Earthquake in March 27th of 1964. The deep state trying to get into the Golden Dome Black Pyramid facility under Denali and Hayes. They wound up destroying one of the black rocks from the Scion system when the Aristana, known here as the Khazarian Mafia, that black heart of their planet fell and landed near Anchorage. It was shattered during that earthquake, and that created that earthquake. Now Trump has bombed the other planet's black heart, which the two planets were Ariana and Na. That was Na's in Anchorage, near Anchorage, and Ariana was under Fardo. And that caused a wave, just like when they tried to just get into the Golden Dome, the Black Pyramid there, that went to outside Tehran and collapsed the Ayatollah's bunker. And in the process, right underneath Fardo, it shattered the black rock or the black heart, which has kept a energy field around the Earth that creates war and hate and anger and locks in the human species into negative vibrations and into 3D and 2D. Just crawled its way up from 2D. It was starting around the time of Christ when some humans were 3D, third density. And so what we're seeing with the earthquake off the Russian peninsula there in Kamchatka was taking out the primary hub for human trafficking and drug trafficking coming from all of Asia to the North and South American continents. So it's the major hub for the entire Upper Pacific regions, all of the countries that border the Pacific Ocean from the equator up. It's the major trafficking hub. And so they collapsed along the continental boundaries, the plates. You have a maglev system that was created by an ancient group called the Hyperboreans a long time ago. And it's a maglev that runs one direction, on one side, and on the other side of the rift is another maglev going in the other direction. And that was the hub. And then they have a brief portal between the two so you can jump which direction you want to go. And so they blew that up. And then in the process, it's creating a wave like what happened in Texas recently. And that was take out of a combined weather war by the deep state, in which they also took out a trafficking hub underneath that school where they're trafficking those children and acculturating them. Some of the elite, the alliance's children, they were trafficking them. And so they rescued those children. And so the same thing is here is before they did that, they rescued the children there. It was a massive amount of children. I can't go into the number because nobody would believe me. Just like I did with China Lake, I gave the number to the exact number and people thought I was insane. They can't have had that many children down there because people don't understand. Like now, Catherine Fitz on Tucker Carlson went into the $21 trillion missing from the U.S. that went into black projects and went into creating dumps. And so they have over 300 just in the US, but there's tens of thousands worldwide, and they're connected into ancient systems as well that are built by pretty much every major civilization, from the Romans to the Greeks to the Phrygians, if you know who those are. They're part of the ancient Khazarian groups, the Orion Syndicate, and they're actually one of the power players on the Earth. And it connects to actually, like, Rob was saying, man has created all this problem with the Babylonian mummy system created in Babylonia, and going forward to the Bank of France being captured at the French Revolution by the Rothschild family, and then going into the Federal Reserve and all of this. And so it's, a taking out of all these facilities is what's happening, and rescuing massive amounts of children, destroying massive amounts of drugs that are really lethal. And to see
Gene,
the federal.
Gene, excuse me. I wanna just say this because you're saying dumbs, and there may be someone that or some people that are listening to this video or watching this video, and they may not know what a dumb is. Will you please explain what a dumb is?
Sure, it's an acronym, which is a word that each letter in the word stands like United States in caps. Each letter stands for a word. So DUMBs, the D-U-M-B is a kind of a play that we're too dumb to see what's right under our feet, but it stands for Deep Underground Military Base. I like to call it Deep Underground Military Facility, or DUMP, because it's kind of a dump, but they're dumping all of the deep state in there, and then they're destroying them. And so to see all this happening, to remind people where we came from, the seventh president of the United States, Andrew Jackson, had actually beat these bankers on the White House lawn with a hickory stick. That's why they called him old. Because he said, if you allow the creation of money to fall into private hands, we will lose our country. And that's where we're fighting our way out. And then Woodrow Wilson said there's a power somewhere, so organized, so subtle, so watchful, so interlocked, so complete, so pervasive that they had better not speak above their breath when they speak in condemnation of it. So to be speaking in condemnation of it in the public right now, and to have people like Trump coming out and speaking about it, we are watching a changing of the guard. And then to have Trump, who's a descendant of Bonnie Prince Charlie, the Scottish must be dancing because the throne is going to, go back to Scotland, where it was originally, before in 1066, when the Norman the Conqueror, which is Khazarian again, came and overthrew the House of Winslow and put in the House of Windsor, which is direct descendants of Vlad the Impaler. So Trump being an heir to Bonnie Prince Charlie, in the true rule of that area of the world, of those islands, is the Scottish must be just loving it. You could see with the greeting he got when he went to Scotland, it was massive crowds. They were cheering, and they know what's coming. So we're seeing.
And the bagpipes is epic.
Yeah, it was. I love the bagpipes, and I wanted to comment that the reason you see Trump backing down the days to 10 is because Ukraine's collapsing. The war in Ukraine may not have 10 days before they're to the Dnieper. And, if they get through this last armored city, I can't ever quite get it right, Petrovsk, I don't speak Ukrainian, but if that's falling now, I mean, it may have fallen today. There's nothing left between the Russian army and the Dnieper. And from once they cross the Dnieper, there's nothing left between there and Kiev. So that's their overall goals in the first place. So he's actually doing a countdown is what he's doing. He's saying how long it's got left. And then the other comment I wanted to make is Hillary did win. I remember other timelines. And so God, to people that think God's not active, I know you didn't personally remember this or remember experiencing this. She caused nuclear war. And they nuked the entire world, and they went in their dumps, and most of the people were dead. And then they had the FEMA camps in some somewhat radioactive areas. And so it's a time in which we're going to see the real history that they've hidden from us come out of underneath the Vatican dumps and all of that. And they have captured the majority of all of this. The alliance has captured the majority of all of it. It's like you listening to George Bush Senior saying, we have a real opportunity to create a new world order, and we will. And now you won't. So, no, you won't. So it's just watching this all come about and seeing history and seeing things unfold that have been hidden. It's just like Rob said, it's Christmas Day. Yay. It's Christmas every day.
Well, and Gene, it's Christmas Day because it's that Christed spirit within us that is revealing truth to us. That's
Absolutely.
what Christ Mass is. It is, there's a difference between Jesus Christ and Christ Jesus. When you say Christ Jesus, it's the Spirit of God that's within us, the Christ that he's talking about that says, these things I've done, you can do, and even greater things because we have the same Father. He
Right.
was just here as an awakened, God in the flesh to remind us that that's who we are too.
Yeah.
But the single greatest destructive force on planet Earth is deception. It's a lie. My people are destroyed for their lack of knowledge of who and whose they are. And if we don't know what our powers are, and our agency and our standing and our jurisdiction and our oneness and our abilities, then we'll place our faith in false idols. Place our faith in others and stuff and man-made systems, whether it's the ego, the intellect. The guys will chase the gold, the girls, and the glory instead of submitting to God and finding out. But ultimately, what you were saying, Gene, it just jumps out of me. I've seen dumbs for people that, to understand the scope and scale of these dumbs. They're not just a base. These things can run 1,000, 1,500 miles. They can be deep underground and connect Israel to the Vatican City. I've seen videos where there is gold, like 4 rows, 4 columns, 10 feet tall on either side of a column that goes 1,500 miles. I mean, if we think we're bankrupt, that's the biggest lie on planet Earth. All it is funny money. It's just a ridiculous currency printed out of thin air. And we're told that we have to work our whole lives, and so do our great grandkids, to pay off the funny money debt. When in reality, we live in a multi-quintillion dollar world of abundance, but they've convinced us that we're just really a debt broken society and we just need to get back to work and keep interest rates high and work harder. I mean, the whole thing is based on ignorance, and it's up to us to wake ourselves up.
I want to follow up on something Gene just said as well, that Trump's doing a countdown. And I think this is the perfect time to bring up this crypto report because we're talking to Gene Decode, and I need a decode here on the second to last page of this. So I'm pull this up here really quick, and we can go through. This came out yesterday, the Strengthening America Leadership in Digital Financial Technology report. A lot of us in the XRP community were waiting for this to see if it would say that XRP is going to be in the national stockpile, which unfortunately it did not. There was not a single mention of XRP or Ripple in the typed portion of this report. However, Ripple did appear on this page, which was a timeline of the phases of cryptocurrency and digital asset market adoption, which Ripple appeared here where I put this arrow. Early on is when, in the first trading, creation phase of this process. On the very last page of this report, of the typed portion, is when it actually talked about the Bitcoin strategic reserve and the digital asset stockpile, in which, it's nothing, none of this is actually really new of what it says, and it didn't mention which coins will be in the stockpile. They're still kind of saying they're going to sort that out. It's notable that this will be administered by the Treasury. It doesn't say anything about the Federal Reserve. This is going to be like the Treasury's reserve with these cryptos. But what really interested me most about this was the page after. This was the last page of the actual text pages. And the very last, or the page after that, which is the second to last page of the entire report, other than the final ending page, which just says the White House, was this. And this is apparently some kind of coded information. I ran this through Grok, and he said, you might need a cipher to decode this. I have no idea what it says. This is a quote from Trump from the White House Crypto Summit, just saying, we're going to be the leader in crypto. The one thing that stands out to me about whatever the hell this is there's only 3 digits or three, Grok. The one thing Grok told me about this was that what you call this is a hexadecimal format. So the thing here that I can tell is that there's three pieces missing here. What that somewhat tells me is that maybe this is some kind of a countdown that's literally only three pieces away from being complete. And so, I mean, not to test your skills, Gene Decode, but if you have any insight on what this could possibly mean, I'm all ears.
Yes, I'm looking at it and it does look hexadecimal. We did have electronic equipment in the submarine that used binary coded and then hexadecimal as well. And so binary coded digital into hexadecimal. And so it does look like hexadecimal. It does look like a countdown, a count up and then a count down. It counted up first to when the cabal thought they would have everything locked down, and including us. And then from that point of when they thought they would have it, it's been counting down since then. So it's been counting down. That's why you see the letters being used, because you have to have digits in hexadecimal beyond the number nine for singular digits to go into hexadecimal. So you have to have something to represent them. So one way is to use something that's normally available and easily understandable and already programmed into the machine, which would be the alphabet. So that's what it looks like it is. I would have to look at it a bit longer to be able to actually decode the numbers and see exactly what the numbers translate from hexadecimal into base 10. But it does look like, and it might even be a double encryption. It looks like it could be a double encryption, like our equipment on the submarine did, from binary coded digital to hexadecimal. So it looks like a double crypto kind of code system. So it's a double encrypted. You go back to binary coded decimal, and then from there you go directly into decimal after that. So yeah, it's just
It's
one thing.
just crazy to me. It's so cute, Anon. Just to have that in the report on the last page, it's like he's obviously dropping hidden messages. And August 1st is the turning on of the reciprocal tariffs. Even on this podcast, Jason Q had predicted that August 1st would be another big date to look forward to, just for some big world events to happen. And so, with that looking like some kind of a countdown that was 2 days ago, right? And so the countdown would end August 1st if somehow those hexadecimal digits were somehow suggesting some kind of a countdown. So very exciting times, to say the least.
Yeah.
Well, Dylan,
May I just, I'm sorry, go on.
no,
Go
please
on.
go ahead.
Go
Please.
ahead, Anna. Go ahead.
Please. Thank you. So thank you, guys. So Jean, I want to ask you about Brazil, because on this tariffs and on this crypto and the expectation about the August 1st, the last 15 days has been kind of emotion, a bunch of situations happening here in Brazil. We lost. There was, when he mentioned the witch hunt, then a major public figure, a female, a female artist was taken out of the scene, and she had a lot of influential. She could influence the whole country, and she's the daughter of one of another celebrity here. And when he mentioned witch hunt, 2 days after her death was announced. And then we have now almost 10 days after this event, this witch hunt here in Brazil, and we are facing the Supreme Judge, the Supreme Court here in Brazil being directly attacked by, not attacked, but he's pointing directly to the head of the Supreme Court in Brazil. He has no pennies. Okay, he has nothing in his name anymore. No credit cards, no properties, nothing. And he used to be the person who runs Brazil. So you are now, Dylan mentioned President Trump in Scotland being the king of as like a king of Scotland, which I'm totally understand. I understand. I studied. I know history. what is how could we relate all these events into Trump? Because I do believe, I don't know if I'm right. I haven't find the information, but maybe you have and you guys have, that Trump could be much more related to Brazil than we know, or it's only about the election fraud that passed through Brazil in 2020. Is my question understandable, Gene?
Kind of. So
Oh my God.
it ties to the Epstein list. Everything does, and everything ties to everything, like Dylan Moore's charts always show. And so the Epstein ties to the Federal Reserve, which ties to the new financial system, which ties to the elites, which ties to the deaths of famous people that is going on, and the two lists actually of the Epstein list, the fake one that Hillary and they took the original and added Trump on it and a few other things, but they also created the other one, and substantially, because they're going to the islands all the time, and there's not just one island. The Epstein's major island that everybody knows, that's for the regular stars and that stuff. Richard Branson's islands, I did that on Karsten W, are the A list. That's where the kings and the queens and the black nobility rent an island, and they ask for a staff, and they pick the staff, and when they leave, nobody's left alive but the people who rented the place, because they've ended everybody else in satanic kind of things. So this is a time in which we're going to people are going to have to open their mind, look and learn to read Dylan's charts, and allow it to expand their brain so you can see the interconnectedness of everything. It's something I realized, having a very logical mathematical mind, that everything is based on phi on the good side. Everything's based on the Fibonacci series on the other side. It's close, and if you were to evaluate it using calculus to infinity, as a mathematical number function, it does go to phi, but it's not phi. It approximates it, but there's a difference. And so this difference is the difference between the tree of life and the tree of death. What people are shown as the tree of life is actually the tree of death, which is what the satanic cult's all about, and locking humanity into a world that is run by a death cult. And so it's about a changing of humanity into another species, or to regain who we were as a species in the first place before these other beings came here and created another group of people called mankind that were to mine gold for them, because the earth is the most plentiful planet, I think, in the universe. Probably you have so much gold and so much of everything. I mean, I had martial arts students that came back from Iraq with a picture of something the size of a baseball in his hand, and I could see it on the desert floor behind him, just every 10 or so feet in every direction, these kind of baseball looking things. And then his friend zeroed his phone in on his hand, and it was a diamond the size of a baseball. And I'm like, that's a raw diamond laying on the desert floor? And he goes, yeah, as far as you can see. And I had another one come back from Afghanistan, and he had gone to a valley there. And the entire floor of the valley had sand. It was gold dust. And he was standing next to a boulder bigger than the big, huge dump trucks that they used to work on highways, the big highways. And it was a solid nugget of gold. And he showed a seam on the side of this valley that ran 150 miles, was 20 feet high, over 20 feet high. It was solid gold. And I'm just like, and learning that gold actually is ongoing. It transmutes, it's bombarded by exotic particles coming from our sun and space, from quartz to gold. That's why you see retilated quartz with gold stripes. It's transmuting and changing in. So there's an endless supply. It's like oil. The more you use, the more that it's created. So it's part of gasification. It's not a fossil fuel. It's just part of the cycle of life where it goes and it is organic material decomposes. And so in a gasification, it turns back into crude oil. And so this is part of all of the secrets that have been hidden from us, including who we are and our history that goes back hundreds of millions of years. And they want us to believe we evolved from monkeys. Well, maybe some of you did, some of them, not you here, but some of them did, because I've realized besides mankind and humanity, there's other groups there that have been here for a long time. There's a bunch of crypto sapiens that have been in hiding. You've got the Homo carpensis and a few other groups. And then you got the Ariana Knob, the cone heads, and the big bubble heads. So you go into these things and all of the stuff going on, and it's just everything ties to everything. But the amount of what has been hidden from us, it's like an iceberg on top of an iceberg, where it's 1/10 of what we have was the truth. And now we're going, oh my gosh. And the same thing will go with the technologies that's been hidden from us. I mean, the NAZIs went to Mars and established a colony in 1935, and they had gone to Mars in 1922. They actually had anti-gravity, were experimenting with it in Europe in the 1890s on Zeppelins. It's like, and we think you can't do that. It's like we're over 150 plus years of this civilization having left the earth with this technology, and Victor Schauberger and Amelia Orsic and all these people coming up with free energy systems, anti-gravitic systems, and then they built the bell, and that opened up time travel. It's just like, oh my gosh, they've had all of this. They've been going back and changing time until groups came here from other places far away. So stop doing that. You're messing up everything. You're changing ripples of time, and you're changing the entire universe. It gets worse the further away from the event horizon that you get when you're doing that. So, they've changed our timeline from Tartaria, trying to lock the human species down and make us tiny and stupid. So, and this is the time we take back our power. So it's all connected to God and Christ and the way we were originally created in the infinite of all things, because you can't create an apple pie from cherries. And so an infinite God does not create a limited being. And God created everything. And it's what I learned in my death experience. Everything's inside you. I was like, the universe, and it was inside me. And I'm like, I don't understand. Yeah. And then God talked to me in my own voice and as everything inside me at the same time. And I'm like, I'm really confused. You're me, but it's inside me, but it's all through, and I'm going through it, but it's not out there. It's in here. It's like, in what the bleep do we know? There is no out there, out there. It's actually all in there. It's a projection on our consciousness. And then to realize that everything is within us and that God is within us, like all of the great masters, especially Christ said, look within for God. And so, it's a time of us reclaiming our divinity. And so it is an incredible time. And to watch the fall of the Satanists in Russia already, they've outlawed Satanism and the Satanic Church. So we can see that the original place where humanity started on Earth, not mankind, humanity started on Earth, Russia, we're back. Yay.
Yeah. Woohoo, we are here. And Jean, today was the first flight from North Korea straight to Russia. It was done today, 8 hour. It's an 8 hour flight, and I thought it was interesting by being today, because when you do, I don't know, when you check the calendars, today would be the same day that Elvis got into the army. And I say, oh my God, what are they telling us? Is it the sum of all fears coming, to the scene? Because if you need the scene, right? We need the movie. It's a movie. Although some people don't like it. It's a movie. And we need the sum of all fears to end this presentation.
Yeah, it's
So
like
Korea and Russia. I thought it was, oh my God, this is so beautiful.
yeah, it's like when Trump had this, at the Republican convention, the huge ceremony or the huge celebration actually, and had Hulk Hogan tear his shirt off, and then and now Hulk Hogan's gone, supposedly, and then you had Nason Dorma, which is what they played at the sum of all in the movie at the end of the movie, the sum of
all fears.
And so,
oh my God, this is so that scene is so beautiful, so powerful.
Just watching this all come down, and Trump giving all of these signals all the time. Everything he does is code speak. It's like every hand motion, every single little thing. It's like the cabal does that. The Masons, you can see like Netanyahu talking, and there's the guy in the background who laced his index finger with his ring finger of the other hand. It codes and all kinds of stuff. And Trump is making them look like they're children. It's like in a sandbox. He's way beyond them. He's the greatest troll and the greatest code speaker of all time.
Ever.
And trying to decode all of it.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but he was playing golf and he was playing golf in Scotland, and he I don't know how to say it because I don't play golf yet. So he made the shot, and he accomplished the shot, and he put the ball and like show it to the camera. So he follow the balls, guys. Follow the ball. It was so happy for me to see the scene because he's having fun. We should have fun, and it's a responsibility. We have been talking about this, the big responsibility we all have had and we all have from now on, because we are not losing this anymore.
Yeah,
right? We have to have fun, and he's telling us.
Yeah, the follow the
I'm
ball
sorry, Jane.
code. You remember when he got shot at Butler and he came up with his hand covered in blood after he touched his right ear, which is an anointing as a priest into the high lineages to lead the world. And now what he's showing is he comes up with the ball after you make the shot. He's saying for humanity, make the shot, take back your divinity, and now you're
going to
fight. And it's now I'm passing the ball to humanity to take back your divinity. Fight, fight, fight. So, like I said, everything he's done is code. You can decode everything. And it's got
everything.
And Gene, if I could add into this, if you think about the spiritual undertones of Trump being anointed for a time such as this and surrounded by people, a lot of things we know for a fact is AI is not new and blockchain is not new. It's been around since the 40s and 50s. Okay, we've known these technologies. We've had wireless, communications and, battery cars in the late 1800s, early 1900s. We've had a lot of civilizational advents. We've had just destroyed or hidden or deep holed. We had 6,500 Nikola Tesla patents that the military and the deep state's using against us, but we don't get to see them. We don't know what they are. So my point being is that if you think of the coded message every time Trump says fight, 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 never quit, the only way we lose in a battle, a spiritual battle, is if we quit. If we take a knee, if we kiss the ring, if we consent by giving our wedding signature to some stupid mortgage contract, or we give our rights away out of ignorance, that one of the laws of even the other side is the system is designed to scare us into submitting. Trump's message, fight, 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 never quit. And his last one that I love more than anything is promises made, promises kept. So think of spiritual laws. Those laws are the same yesterday as they are today, as they are forevermore in the future. The promises are made, the promises are kept. God, the creator, is withholding nothing from us, period. The only thing that keeps us from connectivity and the oneness with the Holy Spirit and that letting Christ flow in and through us is fear. We lower ourselves and the frequency comes down. We can't think objectively. We can't be humble. We won't open our mind. We become afraid to losing stuff or being called a name or not knowing what tomorrow will hold. So we might lose control. But the point of the matter is we're supposed to submit to God and serve God. And in that process, there is no fear. These systems are designed to keep us in a perpetual state of fear. So fight, 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 never quit, promises made, promises kept. And he came down the escalator in 2015 to take the head off of Goliath, the modern day Goliath that terrorized the land. And a 14-year-old kid comes off and he knew what he had to get done. He did his job. Trump's here to take the head off Goliath, which is the central banking franchise that can manufacture all these false narratives and poisons and fears and wars and debt and chaos and weather storms and directed energy weapons and you name it. They can do anything they want as long as we're asleep. Every system in this world is designed to keep us disconnected from our true identity, ignorant and in fear and asleep. They don't want, the technological systems are designed to make sure a 79-year-old grandmama doesn't say the wrong thing that she's tweeting to her grandbaby or posting on Instagram. The system is so complex, they have to monitor everything that might be true, that might expose them, and then mute it, not let it get out. Truth is the greatest threat to the demonic system. That's why they care so much about censorship. They have to keep us asleep and afraid and disconnected in 6 feet circles and shut down the churches and don't go. You can get on an airplane, of course, right? You can get on a tube with a mask on, but you can't go to church. You can go to Walmart, but you can't go to the little local grocery store. It was all about
the liquor stores, Rob, the liquor stores were open too.
You could buy a lottery ticket, go to the liquor store and have an abortion, but you couldn't go to the local, diner or get your hair cut, or go to church on Sunday. So the certain things were okay, but if truth started spreading and people started comparing notes, they couldn't have that. So they had to lock us all down, put us in circles, mask our face, which was the most dumbest thing on the planet Earth. This will keep you safe, and this needle will keep you even safer. And if you don't take the needle and you don't put the mask on, you hate people. Literally, they've done a masterful job. What does the great deceiver come to do? Divide, deceive, devour, and destroy. And it's destroy and divide us from our Creator and knowledge of spiritual laws. We're not destroyed because we don't know enough physics or mathematics or how to do fine art. We're destroyed because we don't understand spiritual laws. We're ignorant to the laws in the law book. Most people don't realize that the law book is over 40% about man's relationship to materialism, mammon. How do we relate to ego and pride and personality and attaching our identity to tools, money, status, cars, reputation, jobs, career, bank accounts, net worth, power. Those are all materialistic ideas. But if we attach ourselves to materialistic ideas instead of viewing them as tools to be used in the mission we were deployed to do, we aren't created to be employees. We're deployed for purpose. We're not born to be employees. We're deployed for purpose. And for anyone to think that if there's a masterful creator who created us for purpose, do we think that creator would then not provide us the resources to be successful in the purpose? Of course he would not. That makes no sense. So the lie of scarcity is to make everybody hopeless. Oh my God, well, if I want to do that, if I want to save the world, if I want to get rid of the central banking, if I want to do whatever, fill in the blank. I can't do that. I don't have enough resources. We're in debt. Everybody, has to beg for a little bit of porridge because scarcity, 15-minute cities and let's eat bugs. I mean, the entire idea of scarcity is the biggest lie ever told. We do not live in a scarce universe, but that's what we've been cooked in the easy bake ovens called public school to think. It's a limited pie, very little bit. We got to be careful. We got to spread it all around. We got to elect those angels that can dance on the head of the pen and manage all of these scarce resources for everybody. While they go to Epstein Island and Richard Branson's islands and fly private jets and, have $5 billion yachts, they don't have scarcity, but we need to understand how to live our lives scarcely. It's just, it's almost a dark comedy when you begin to wake up and see what they've done to us.
No doubt. No doubt. Very well said, Rob. Listen, I want to change, kind of shift gears here a little bit. So we'll push into clutch. Gene, you were the first person in my life to come out with the Bill of 𝖚𝖃. You did a great video on 𝖚𝖃. I believe it was back in 2019. And can we talk about the last part of this show here? And we're hopeful to have everyone back again because there's so much to talk about. But 𝖚𝖃, the Bill 𝖚𝖃, and then how that leads into the Medbeds, because everyone wants to know about the Medbeds. Can you bring us up to date on that, please?
Yeah, so let me first close out where we were. And so we're talking about the 10 days and then the warning, and we're talking about the 5 words that Trump said, which is actually a double trinity. As you have fight, fight, fight 3 times, which he was anointed as, when he went down, came up with the blood on his ear and all that. And then he held the ball up over his head. So you have fight, 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 never quit. So if you take fight, fight, fight as one word, because it's redundant, and then you have another 3. So you have fight, never quit. So that's another trinity passing the ball to us. And that was on July 13th, 2024, which if you compress, July is the 7th month, the 13th day, if 2024, it's the number 33 or 33rd degree. So they were trying to take control back as the Master Mason of the Presbyterian levels, the secret orders beyond the 32nd degree of the Grand Master Mason into the secret orders of the Illuminati. And he took it back. And now we see they're trying to still do it with this recent false flag on the 33rd floor of the building there. And so he's passing the ball to us. And so it's to do where we're going now is to go back and get these technologies like the Medbeds and actually the technology of our financial system, of a real financial system based on gold and tangible assets. I believe it's likely going to be, there was a hidden code inside the countdown clock for or the count up clock for the deficit in the trillions of dollars. And I downloaded that code, and it's a financial system based on the assets of the people of the United States and the government, of all of the different items, not just gold, but actual things like, the government has earth movers and all these different kind of things. So all of these assets will be the support for the system in its entirety, plus of course what he did at the Federal Reserve with the white hats and and saying the numbers of how much money it was, 3.1, 31, all of these things code into destroying the Fed, destroying the IRS. Tomorrow a lot of Americans are supposed to get a $600 rebate check for the tariffs. And on the tariffs, that's how our system was originally. We had so much money, like he's saying, that we didn't even know what to do with it. It's why Teddy had all that money to create the national park system. And so we're going back and, he's saying we've raised billions. It's actually because when he went and to his estate, his golf course estate in Scotland, they're actually bringing tariff or tribute. In other words, gold and things back, like when he went the first time and the Queen waved him to go in front of him, and he went to the Westminster Abbey and he signed the ledger for the Crown Corporation, becoming the CEO of the company that's the world financial system. And so now he's getting the tribute due. They're coming in and bringing tribute. So it's actually $25 trillion that has been brought back into the US, actually. Not just the tariffs on the countries, the tariffs on the leaders of all the gold and monies and financials that they've stolen from us through the Crown Corporation and all of this other stuff since the beginning of the United States, all the way since 1776 and then 1812 when they burned DC and replaced the Constitution. He got the original back. It's on display in the Oval Office. So, these United States for America. So all of this is coming back to the core of everything, and that's going to bring out the technologies of healing through sound, like in the beginning when God said. So it's literally healing from the Word of God into the light that is what created us as it drops down density into form, the light of the Holy Spirit, which is our true eternal self. So we're looking at things returning, and then actually the ability to have our monetary system based on reality instead of a matrix of fake, just expanding debt, that everything is based on debt being passed into the future. In other words, a system that's based on the illusion of you trust it because we told you to, and now you don't have to be told because you can put your hand on what it's backed by. And so that's an opening for you there, Quaker. Go ahead.
Yeah. So now this is where, I don't know how to put it, but when I first learned about NESARA, my big awakening was 9/11. I knew that there was no planes that hit those buildings that took them down. They dropped right where they were. And that was my biggest awakening, was that. That's when I started digging. But when I learned about NESARA and GESARA through Eugene, I would like you to touch base on NESARA and GESARA, and then how this is going to take a place. And then we have so many people, we have loved ones, we have family members that are needing the med beds. And the med beds have been kind of out there, and people that know about them, talk about them, but I would say probably less than 1% of the whole population here on Earth know nothing about it. And they just think it's just a myth. Can you touch on NESARA and GESARA, and then also finally the med beds? I think that's a big topic to end with.
Well, the NESARA ties initially to the trade towers coming down, because they were all of that material, and the Pentagon, all of that information on the missing monies, plus the Building 7, the gold that was shown in one of the Die Hard movies, where they removed the gold from the Federal Reserve. And so that actually did take place. They always have to show you ahead of time as part of the rules that got put down. So they showed us ahead of time they're going to remove the gold with 13 dump trucks, of course, 13 being symbolic as well. And then they had, under some special forces, that forced Clinton to sign I believe it was Clinton, to sign the NESARA to get us back on a real financial system, and to return us to the Constitution as well. And so all of that's where we're headed now, and we're coming back into that. And then, so that will allow for a true financial system, which will take away their ability to, like Rothschild said, I don't care who makes the laws. If I make the money, I will run the people that makes the laws. And we've seen that, and that power is now going back to the people, which means we run the country. like Trump said, I'm here for you. I represent you. And so it's your country, your money, your government. It's not the government, of the government, it's of the people and for the people. So we will run and put people in order, in place, and get back our real voting as well. And that ties into the digital and the Bitcoin, the XRP, and all of that, which ties into the Golden Dome and what will be controlling all of that, which ties into the domes, which ties into the earthquake, which ties into the Epstein list. And so that then ties into the Medbeds, and the Medbeds are based on a technology that goes to the root of who we are, which is we are created by God, by the word and the light and all of that. So at the first and second density, you have your first density and second density body, which is the blueprint, the energetic blueprint for your physical body as it originally was. So the first level of what it can do using sound and light is it can clean your body back up to whatever age you want it to be. Or it at first just get you homeostasis and your health back and clean out any nanotech or anything else, toxins, all of that, and bring back your health. And then the next stage is if you have a missing limb or something like that, you can regrow that. And that takes a few extra hours. The next stage of what it can do is it actually can reverse your aging. It regrows the telomeres. And then if you want to go into the higher levels of what it can do, it can start to reaccrue your genetic material back to the 64 strands we were originally created in. So at 2 strands in the 50s, we started having triple helix children, or 3-stranded. And now we're having pentahelix, or 5-stranded. Went from the indigo to the crystalline children. It can make everybody into triple helix or pentahelix. The next stage from there is 12 strands. And that's where we were when Lemuria was brought down by Atlantis in the great catastrophe, and humanity fell from 12 strands. At those points, a human being can actually manifest material from their mind, from their psychic abilities. They can manifest gold out of the Word of God and the light of the Holy Spirit, just like you see the ancient masters, and even like Christ said, like you had mentioned earlier, I'm but a mustard seed compared to what you can do. And he was manifesting bread and all of these, and turning water into wine and walking on water, anti-gravitical. In other words, all of these things, we can control all of this as a 12-stranded being. So it's bringing us back, and it'll be used in stages and brought out in different modules with different abilities. First, just to get the basic of homoborgenesis stuff out of us. So because they're getting close to doing some very nefarious things of putting it in foods and other things, and other materials that people use on a daily basis. So they're not going to give up. So that's why that Trump is moving so fast. In 6 months, all of what's happened, and people even what is visible is a lot. If they knew all of what the alliance and Trump have done when he first came in, and all those first executive orders, those were ready to go already. It's obvious that those were pre-written, ready to go. Well, all of this is pre-written and ready to go. It's all written and mostly done. So we're seeing the stuff with Obama. We're seeing the Medbeds starting, the Justara starting, with the first check coming tomorrow, of some of the financials coming back, the massive amount of return of industry to the United States. And then once that happens, and then we see, he's already talking why he's going to all these heads is, now it's your turn. You overturn the cabal. Here's the keys. Here's the financial system. Here's the technologies. Get it done. And so you either play the game and you get in alignment with the alliance and you bring down this cabal in your country, or we'll put somebody in there who will allow you to continue to do your stuff. You saw the absolute submission of pierced armor, and in, on Trump's ground every single time, and in the White House with Ann Vanderleyen, she's like a spoiled, like a whipped puppy in there. She looks like, sitting there with a little girl that's got her caught with her hand in the cookie jar. This like, yeah, she did a great job for Europe. Oh yeah, she completely submitted. You're going to give us billions of dollars, and you're also going to have tariffs, and you're not going to do any tariffs on us. And it's pretty much the same thing for every country, with Japan, it's just every single country going into that. And so it's getting the world back into alignment as well. So it's, that's why I didn't. How are you going to that in the 90s? I'm like, it's the whole world. How are they going to clean the whole world? And now, all of it's coming down, and it's all interconnected and all interweaving. And so in Russia, they started with the BRICS. And that's actually a Nassar Jassara kind of situation over there, where it's gold backed, and the BRICS countries are on the same thing, where you're on a real currency, and then they're developing something outside SWIFT, because SWIFT will have to collapse. And like a Bank of America saying, it's looking like the US dollar is going to collapse. And so that's part of it. You have to bring down the house of cards if you're going to put a real house, a brick. It's like we have four little pigs. My house is built out of brick. My house is built out of sticks. My house is built out of we get to the fourth one. My house is built out of cards. It's like, that's where we came from, and that's where we're going. Thank you. I see.
Gene, if I could make a point that I think has been so edifying for me, and when I try to teach and I try to explain things, I think it's so important for people to understand that we have to bring down the dollar, but what they call a dollar is a Federal Reserve note. They hijacked the name. They stole the name. They kept using the name dollar, but they mean Federal Reserve note. So Donald Trump wants to make the dollar, keep the dollar kind of the world standard, the gold standard of currency, but he wants it to be a U.S. Treasury dollar as it was originally defined. They have trained us since 1913 to call the Federal Reserve note the dollar. That's what's coming down. The funny money, cartels' funny money that they called the dollar. But the real dollar is like an RLUSD, tier one backed, treasury issued United States dollar with monthly audits to prove that there's 100% collateral behind every digital dollar issued by with the consent of the Treasury. This digital dollar is an asset. It's not a liability. And because there's 100% tier one assets, be it gold or silver or U.S. Treasury, T-bills, notes, whatever it may be, you cannot have fractional reserve lending because you have to have one-to-one collateral behind every U.S. Treasury dollar. But when people say, oh, yeah, the dollar's got to collapse, the average normie goes, oh my God, what's going to happen to my stock portfolio? And they can't separate the fake Rothschild dollar from the Trump dollar because they're using the same term dollar, but they don't understand that one is not really a dollar. And that one that's not a dollar has to come down. So,
Rob, that's a great point. Because if you look at the US debt clock, it clearly tells you that the Federal Reserve note is basically, it's not worth 100 pennies. It's worth a little over 3 pennies. And that's why everything costs so much. And when Trump talks about the tariffs and the reevaluation of all the currencies, your new Treasury dollar is going to be worth 100 pennies. And people don't understand this. We don't have real money. I hear this all the time. Oh, I made really good money. No, you didn't. You made 3 cents on the dollar is what you made.
And you made a debt. We've had in our pocket our whole lives is an IOU to the issuing institution known as the Federal Reserve Bank that wasn't federal, that didn't have any reserves. It's like the MGM creates poker chips. And then they tell you what you can and can't do with the poker chips. You can't walk out the street. You can't. the private cartel that issued the poker chips known as the Federal Reserve notes, every dollar, every $20 bill in our pocket is an IOU to the Federal Reserve. There are no IOUs in a U.S. Treasury dollar. What Trump is bringing back to the United States is an unalienable asset. What we've been using our entire lives is a debt note that's got nothing but liens all over it. It's the implied contract that gives the IRS agency, an income tax agency, and property tax, and ad valorem tax, and birth certificates, and tax identification numbers, and all of this happens because we ignorantly consented by our use to use this contracting debt instrument known as a Federal Reserve note. When the issuer is issuing assets, which Trump is going to do with digital dollars, then the unalienable part of we have life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness with unalienable rights issued by our Creator, you can't put a lien on an asset. You can only put the lien on the Federal Reserve debt note. So we go back to the unalienable rights of our founding. Our covenant document that gave America life was a love letter from man to God. It was a love letter recognizing that all of our rights come from God, and that we have unalienable rights. We don't have to go ask for permissions from anybody because we already have them all. And you can't put a lien or a first claim or a tax on our life, our creativity, our liberty, our businesses, our property, our pursuit of happiness, our labor. You're not supposed to be, no one is supposed to have a claim on anything that we create. But yet they made that happen. And we're undoing all of that deception by going back to an unalienable asset-backed trust dollar issued by a nation, not by a private cartel, not by a bunch of folks that were Marxists and atheists. The founders of central banking, as Gene mentioned, they're one of the most famous quotes of Mayor Amstel Rothschild was, "I care not who makes a nation's laws as long as I create the money, because I have all the power. If I create the monetary system, I don't care who the hell's in charge. I don't even care what your laws, I don't care what you're talking about. I own the joint. I create the money supply." So we're going back to bottom up sovereign assets instead of top down funny money debt paper. And that's the fundamental change that the average person the average person gets out of high school and they're not taught how to balance a checkbook, or they're not taught basic guns and butter of economics. They're not taught anything about finance. Why? They need us to stay ignorant. They don't need us to understand how the money system works. They just want us to be dependent on the experts that can tell us what to do with our money while they maintain all the control over us because we use their money. So thanks for letting me share that.
Oh man, that was perfect. Listen, we're coming up on a 2 hour and 10 minute mark. I'd like to close it out in the next 20 minutes. So what I'd like is, Dylan, you have any more questions for Gene?
No, but I think Gene has something to share. Is that correct, Gene?
Yes, I do. This gentleman, I pulled up a video on X on the account of Santa Trump, because we're talking about Santa Claus and Christmas every day. Love to cook, and that something's cooking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so I wanted to share this because this gentleman shares it. It's not just about the money, it's about housing. And average person young person can't afford a house anymore. And so the housing market is actually being changed over too. So that the average person, young person, or any person that has, a reasonable income can afford a home again. And so I wanted to share that, and then also just mention about the Federal Reserve created in 1913 at Jekyll Island, where that tribe of Dan used to sacrifice children on an altar there to Baal. And that was underneath the table, under the floor, with a viewing glass under the table to see that sacrificial stone. So it was a sacrifice of America to the Federal Reserve, and that's what we're coming out of. And this video includes bringing that system down. You're talking about Wall Street. It ties, like everything always ties to everything. It ties to that. So this is the post I was saying, and I'll blow this up and we'll just listen to this individual. He's very knowledgeable and he says it quite well.
Whoa, 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 look at this. How come nobody's talking about this? Why not? This is huge. Can you imagine if this happens? New legislation proposes to take Wall Street out of the housing market. You know what that means? They're talking about hedge funds. Yeah, they're talking about hedge funds not being able to own single family homes. Yeah, if this bill actually goes through, you know what it means? It means that over the next 10 years, all these big hedge funds have to get rid of all their single family houses. That's right. The hedge funds have to let them go over the next 10 years and can't own them anymore. What do you think that would do for real estate prices? What do you think that would do for people looking to buy a home? That could change the entire landscape. Let's see if this goes through. I'm going to be following this really close. Remember to like and follow.
So let me explain. You're talking about billionaires that own everything, all of these homes. Now you put it back in the hands of the people. The housing market, the price of homes will come drastically down, and it'll make it so people can own homes, even rent homes to people, so that even the homeless people will have veterans that are homeless on the street will be able to have a home that they can rent from somebody. You could own your own home and have a home to rent to people that don't have homes, and allow them to get a lift up. And so this is a huge thing that's happening. It's part of the hedge funds is another thing, of the debt slavery. It's another trick they used on us. It's all connected, interconnected, but this is incredibly huge. So you see, and he's saying 10 years. I don't think it's going to be 10 years. I think we'll see this happen by the end of next year once this bill goes through. All of this, we've seen what he's done in just a little over 6 months. And like everything, it's a geometric wave. It's a bell curve. So it's going to, the speed at which he's moving and the alliance is moving and all this, we're just at the beginning of it. It's going to go so fast. It's why I have a weekly update, 2 different interconnecting bi-weeklies on my, so I'm doing one every week on my website, because and I can't even cover everything in a weekly basis anymore. It's like you almost have to do it daily. I just can't do it daily, but there's so much happening, and behind the scenes, it's magnified massively, like how much money the U.S. has brought in, and all of this is magnified behind. We're seeing the tip of the iceberg compared to what's actually happened and is being done. So,
Gene, if you don't mind, I'm about to come out of my skin, because this is 25 years in the mortgage and finance business. But let me add 3 points together. Number one, remember when the COVID hit and the institutions came in and started buying up all the single family homes, and they made it impossible? They drove up the average price of a home by 38%, bringing people, just making it unaffordable for the average person, a young kid, to even get a starter home. It was ridiculous. So the houses went up 38%. Trump wants to drop interest rates by 75 to 80%. And where did the shooting take place? At Blackstone on the 33rd floor, where the executive was killed. So just put together the symbology, and I don't know how to tell you what that calm is as to why the executive of Blackstone on the 33rd floor was shot. But if you bring houses down by 38%, and the biggest purchase most people ever make in their life is a mortgage. Is a home. And the second biggest purchase is the mortgage on that home. Okay. So it's the house itself, but then it's the financing that goes with it that you have to pay the house off. Those are 1 and 2. if number one comes down 38% and the financing cost comes down 75 or 80%, what does that do to affordability? It brings the housing back in line like that very quickly. And I don't think it's going to take years, like Gene said.
Not only that, but you're talking fractionalized banking. That loan, then each year your mortgage is sold to another bank for 1/10 of the original value until it goes to $1. Within usually even a multi-million-dollar home is at $1 within 10 years. So they've resold your home, the lien on your home over and over and over and over and over and over until it's worth nothing. It now goes back to being backed by real financial instruments. It's all interconnected, so you can see how everything ties to everything. And that will collapse the banking system so we can get back a real banking system, a real financial system. And so it's like he's doing with the Department of Education, returning it to this control of the state, rather than, again, getting rid of the bureaucracy, what Kennedy said he was going to do. And and Nixon said he was going to do, and Reagan said he was going to do, and then they try to kill all these, or they do kill these people. So, and then, naming Denali back into Mount McKinley and looking at that they killed McKinley for all he was doing too, for the same things. And so we're getting this all back. And, it's the only time it could happen right now, because we have the technology and we have all of the things in place to allow Trump to do what he's doing. So, they have the technology to make their move, but at the same time, the alliance is making their move. And they're doing a Tai Chi move where you take what they do and use it against them. And so everything they do has been gamed out to where it actually destroys them quicker. So they are actually doing moves that are showing and waking up the people, and at the same time bringing down their own fake system built on, it's like the father of all lies. It's built on lies. It's built on fake. It's satanic. It's built on nothing. It's the same thing with the court system is being rebuilt too. They're bringing down these fake judges because it's existential law. They're actually going to go back to constitutional law. In existential law, you're not making judgments. If a person goes to court, they're not judged under the law. They're judged by precedent. Well, you can walk precedent. We saw it with abortion. You can walk precedent, a gray line, slightly different, till it's black compared to white. And so that we're going back to a system based on the Constitution. The way a judge is supposed to do is to inform you of what you're being, judged on, what you're being said that you allegedly did, and then under what law, just not by precedent. That's why it's the Bar Association, and the letters of the bar, the BAR. That's also code and an acronym too. And so we're going to go back to a real system based on what the founding fathers put in the first place. So back to you.
Morality, moral, common law, common to all spiritual beings. I mean, morality, which is the last thing this British accreditation registry or Bar Association doesn't give two damns about morality. They care about monetizing the arguments and making as much money over the technicalities of the code. They don't care about morality.
The only ones that make money are the attorneys and the judges and the courts. That's the only ones that make money.
Every single court in America has a Dun and Bradstreet number. It's a P&L. There's a profit and loss. The court cases tap into the World Bank, and they tap into our trust. They access our trust. They split it among themselves, and they call it justice. And it's just a fraud. The entire thing's a fraud.
Yep. And if you have an attorney that you call your good attorney, I have a really good attorney. If he's not pushing common law, if he's not telling the truth like we are right now, he's not your friend. He's just charging you more money. And when you don't, I know this because I went through it. These attorneys are all secret societies. I played golf with attorneys, and they would literally, in divorces, they would literally go meet 50, 60 miles out of town, go play golf, and say, well, how much does our client have? What's in their account? And they already know the game plan and how they're going to throw the ball back and forth at each other and chew up more time to charge you in the court system. It's all fraud. It's all fraud. So
The lawyers will get the husband and wife to both spend $100,000 fighting over a $60,000 bill.
correct.
And they'll spend 200 grand arguing over 60 grand. And the lawyers win. Right.
Exactly. So, Anna, do you have anything you want to bring up for closing comments or questions to Gene or Rob?
I think this panel here can run the world easily with morals, faith, yes, brilliancy, and art of we reach people. We have, I don't have anything to add. Come on, how can I add something? I'm learning. I'm Gene Decode in 1975. And I'm happy to be here among you all and to have Gene, whom I love, and I'm happy. Yeah, I'm just happy. I'm just happy to be here alive and having the time of my life. I'm dancing. Let's go dance. That's it. We don't, I know it's hard, and especially for us, maybe I think, let me correct here. I think for us it's difficult because many people don't see what we see and we have to go to them. And that's our job. Our job is not to be, oh, I know this, everything's coming. No, we have to teach and to go back and to better ourselves on explaining. So it's hard. It's very hard. It's tiring. I am exhausted. I believe Gene, it's beyond exhausted all these years, all his life. But there's no way out. I always tell you this, right, Qranker? There's no way out, and we are here in this mission, which is I don't like this world call. I love Christ, and I couldn't be doing anything differently. So I'm all in. So back to you, Qranker. Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Anna. And thanks for bringing Gene on. Dylan, you have anything?
Just one last thing while we were talking about judges. The latest thing I've heard in my little local situation in Cincinnati with the lawlessness and a lot of people critiquing the mayor and the police department is that a Facebook post made me more aware that it's not a lack of funding or defund the police or DEI is part of the problem, but the source of this problem is that the police are unmotivated because they know that the judges are letting these people off, and so they put their lives on the line to arrest people that are causing chaos in the city. And then these judges just put them right back on the street. And so, we've all heard about the Soros appointed DAs, district attorneys, but these judges are a big part of the problem too. And they're such high level Illuminati members or, secret societies, whatever, just what you said about the lawyers, it's even worse with the judges. And so I know we need some kind of a revolution in the legal system that I know it's coming. I'm not sure how it's going to come, but that's a whole other subject for another video. Maybe we get into at a later time. But it's looking so good across the board, but there is so much work that still needs to be done.
Thanks,
And
Dylan.
so as we ended, let me just say thank you to all the guests for coming on. Since this is going to be on my channel, New Templars, it's been a great discussion. I've learned so much, and it's just so great to hear the depth of knowledge from all of our guests, and I'm sure the audience is going to love it too. And so subscribe to New Templars. We'll put everyone else's links in the description as well. I have 2 links for Rob, and we'll definitely get Gene's link in there and Anna's Telegram, I think. And we'll make sure we have everything. So look in the description for everything that you'll need. And my website is dsmp.io. And thank you to Qranker for hosting this.
Dylan, thank you. You're a great patriot. You really are. So thank you for all your work on your maps. Rob, you're up.
Well, I'm honored, grateful, overwhelmed, and just like Anna, just filled with joy that, we're anointed for a time such as this. We know what's happening. We see the deception. We see the darkness. I just like to remind people, just like there is a fake monetary system with fake money, but it's actually debt, there's fake faith. And unfortunately, it's called religion. And that's counterfeit faith. Jesus did not come to take us out of this world, to put us on a magic spaceship and fly us somewhere else. He came to empower us, educate us, remind us of who we are and what's inside of us and what our quantum powers are and what our relationship is with the Father. He didn't come to put us on a magic spaceship and fly us off somewhere. So this idea that, oh my God, well, somebody should fix this, somebody should make my neighborhood better. Well, maybe he made you to do that, right? Maybe that's your job. So we need to, if we have a true faith that's fully 100% based in conviction, then we understand what our power and agency and standing and jurisdiction and capabilities are. That's the kind of faith that we were instructed. That level of absolute sellout faith, the faith of a mustard seed, can move mountains out of our way. But do we really have faith, or do we just give lip service because we've memorized a bunch of words, but we haven't really activated it in our soul? We don't really believe it. We're just going to check all the boxes, and then hopefully, when we die, we'll go through the pearly gates and we'll get us a 50-yard line seat in Heaven's Stadium if we're good boys and girls. There is no other time than right now. There's not 5 minutes ago, and there's not 5 days from now or 5 hours from now. The only time we can experience quantum power, standing, creativity, and agency is right now. Everything else is a man-made construct. It's a human construct of time. And if we don't get our head on straight and get rid of all the lies we've been told since the day the doctor slapped us on the rear end, if we don't flush that out and detox our soul, what good's a med bed if you come back out and you're just a complete train wreck of a soul, but your body's fixed? It's not. We've got to get back to the make first things first. Who am I and whose am I? What laws and what truths apply? Why am I here? When we get those issues resolved and we work on those issues with all of our heart, mind, soul, and strength and find out who we are, we become unstoppable. We cannot be defeated. So thank you for having me.
Oh, Rob, that was powerful. Thank you so much. I agree with you on all of it. Gene, you got any parting words? And I want to just tell you, it was an honor to have this podcast with you, and I hope you come back and join us again. We could talk again. You're just a wealth of knowledge. I've learned so much from you over the last 6 years, 7 years, and I'm so thankful. And for those people that are out there that are saying this is going on too long, this has got to end, blah, blah, blah. I can't even imagine you knowing in 1990 what we know now and getting to this point. So take that. We'd like to have some parting words from you.
Yeah, thank you. So go back to religion and not being spiritual. Look at the Latin and the Greek basis of words. To do again, lie in the area. So rely again in the area of trying to go to something that is our source, but you're not going to a source. You're going through a church. You're going through pastors and priests and all of it, and popes and all of this. And we found out all the popes are tools of the Roman Empire that's still running the world. And that goes all the way back to Babylon, and that goes all the way back to Polaria and all of this stuff. So it's going back to God and directly. God's within. We don't need somebody to go between us and God. It's all going through this creation straight is in us back to God. And so going to the the morale, more for all of us, the truth, the nature of who we are, the morality and the truth and back to God and the basics. And so when you get back to the basics, everything becomes real. We get a financial system that's real. We get a healing system, not a system based on pumping drugs into you, made from oil and other toxins and poisons. And back to the understanding, and everything will be rewritten, and all that is hidden will come abroad and be known. And so we're in the hard times, and we're going in the process, we're going to transition very quickly now. Now, people better, as the board said, buckle up, buttercups, because the roller coaster is peaking the hill, and it's just starting that first downslide. And that downslide is a slide back down to where we came from, back down to the source of how we were created as the human species in the image of God, and directly going back to morality and God and the truth, without all just doing lip service to it. So I say Godspeed and God bless, and thank you, everyone. It's been an honor to be with such fine gentlemen and gentlewomen. Thank you.
Gene, thank you. That's awesome. My parting words is this: it's been a long road, not nearly as long as Gene's. I know many patriots are getting frustrated. They want this to end. There's so many layers to the Great Awakening. I mentioned this on Anna's channel to the people in Brazil, who I love dearly, and I shout out to all of them. They're just amazing how they've welcomed me on Anna's channel. This Great Awakening is more than just politics. It's more than the Federal Reserve. It's more than Trump. It's more than politics. It's also about going within, as Rob and Gene were talking about. And I think a lot of people need to really hear this, because I'm one of them. I had to go within. I took about a year off because when you learn that the Christ is within you, and you learn that you have the power, it's hard, because the emotions, as Gene mentioned earlier in the show, the emotions that you go through is like, I've gone through a death, because my old life it doesn't exist anymore. We're going into a new life, a new world. It's going to be totally different than we've ever lived in. And we have to prepare ourselves. The abundance, as Gene and Rob are talking about, the abundance that's coming to us. I put this in my post on X, and I want to read this. Does the love of money motivate you? Or does freedom motivate you? Freedom to make your own choices, to take care of yourself, your family, your friends, your community, without having to ask permission from your government or the bank. Financial sovereignty is going to be coming before us. That's freedom. That motivates me, not money. Get ready, plan, prepare yourselves. This isn't about money. This is about the responsibility of managing the abundance to rebuild our new sovereign world. Building bridges together. The money that we're getting, the abundance we're getting, is God's money. We're just becoming stewards of it. And we're not going to rely on government to do it for us. We have to do it for our communities. We have to do it for it all starts in our own little communities. So the responsibility, as Anna talked about, as Rob had talked about, Dylan's talked about on previous podcasts, and now Gene, there's a tremendous responsibility that's coming before us on living sovereign. And when you live sovereign, you have to live as a king and a queen, and that comes along with being responsible. And I just wanted to leave everyone with that and think about that. This abundance is not ours, it's God's. And how many XRPs you have and how many XLMs you have, all this. We were so blessed to learn this system before anyone else. And we are less than 1% of the whole earth that knows about the RV, that knows about the financial system that's coming, that knows about precious metals and where precious metals are going to go to. So understand that this is a blessing to all of us, and it's coming. And the last one is patience. And that's the one I've had to really learn, and that's the word patience. So I don't mean to preach, but I'm just telling you my experience, what I've gone through in this great awakening. It's much bigger than what we're seeing on TV. It's much bigger than what we're doing on podcasts. It's going within and understanding that we're going to have a new life. So thank you for that. And God bless everyone. And Gene, Rob, Dylan, Anna, I love you guys. And thank you for being on this journey with me.